All right. Nice hat.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victor Rocha. I'm the editor of Pachanga.net. We're just starting out. This is my dear friend, Chris Stearns, who I've invited on to my much too infrequent podcast on Facebook Live. But I invited Chris because Chris has been involved in tribal gaming much longer than I have. I believe you started as an infant on the Navajo reservation, and he was too good. They couldn't hold him down there, so he had to move on. But Chris lives in Washington State. He's running for state representative in the 47th legislative district as a Democrat. But before we get into that, Chris, welcome. How are you doing, my friend?
Thank you, Victor. I'm doing great. It's wonderful, a great morning, and I'm really glad to be here.
Well, we know it. Well, I'm really glad to have you here. The reason why I invited you here is, first of all, I think you as a person have a fascinating journey, and I don't think that many people really know you like I know you, and like many of us in the industry. But even them, you're have a fascinating journey. It's been to The road has been really interesting to get to where you were. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but you've always kind of been a role model to a lot of us. It's like, okay, this is how you're supposed to be, this is how you're supposed to act. And you've always just been a light, since I've known you now, probably 20 something years. So prove me wrong, Chris.
Well, you're so kind and gracious. I really appreciate that.
Well, listen, when I first I know you through. I think when I first saw you was back in the early 2000s. I know before then you were. I saw you with Tex Hall, and you were working with Tex, and that's when I first saw you. But even before that, you were. Tell us your story, man. Tell me
Okay.
about where you're from, who
Well,
are your
I will.
people, and
I probably should start when I was zero. When I was not even born. My mom was really just a young teenager. She was 15, and she was part of the federal Indian relocation program. And when she was 16, she was in Los Angeles. That's where she got relocated to. She had a daughter who she really couldn't take care of with what she had. So that daughter was sent back to Shiprock. I was born when she was 17, and as many of you know, I'm difficult to handle. So I did not get sent back to Shiprock. I was instead placed in the Los Angeles County foster care system, and so I spent the first 2 years, a little bit more than that, of my life in LA County foster care. So I feel like a couple things. One is that I'm really almost like the product of the federal assimilationist policy, and secondly, I feel like after that, I'm playing with house money, not to import in a gambling idiom, but who knows what could have happened. But as it turned out, I was lucky, and I was fortunate. I got to go to college, and I got to go to law school, and I got a chance to see what it would be like to practice at a really big corporate law firm, and to hate it, and then to be able to rack my brain. What possibly could a Native American lawyer do? Oh, I know. Work for an Indian law firm. And so, yeah, I started out at a place called Hobbs Strauss. And this was in 1989. So this was before Indian gaming had taken off. And I remember my parents were, aghast that I was not going into like business or corporate law. And here I was working for a firm where there was no reliable or foreseeable wealth in any capacity. As thing, and I started, I was lucky enough. I got to work on Navajo school boards, That was one of the really main focuses we were doing then, was we were helping school boards all over the country. But I got the Navajo school boards and South Dakota Pine Ridge school boards to help them operate schools that the federal government, basically to take control of those and help the tribes themselves operate the schools. And it was really something. So I was lucky to be able to, give back to, to my tribe and, to other tribes in Indian country. And then that progressed to working on healthcare where, our firm and many other firms too, sued the United States for providing substandard, even by government standards, substandard care, that was promised in treaties. And, so that was another thing that really, I think it created my sort of permanent worldview of what, what I should be doing, and just be so thankful for all the other amazing, advocates, lawyers, writers, you name it, who are in the same business of trying to hold the United States accountable and trying to improve living conditions, really basic human rights to healthcare, to education for all Native Americans. And so I was lucky enough to be able to do that for almost 5 years. And then I ended up working on Capitol Hill as a deputy counsel for the Native American Affairs Subcommittee in the House, which was chaired by, this amazing Representative Bill Richardson from New Mexico. And, Bill is still in the news. I think he's in Moscow right now trying to get Brittany Griner out of Russia. That's sort of his thing. He helps rescue people. But he had always remembered that when he won in the 3rd District of New Mexico, which is northern New Mexico, he won with the Native vote. So he always made it a key part of his work to say that, he owed Native Americans in New Mexico and really nationwide for his position. And then after that, I was able to work for the full committee, a natural resources committee on Native American affairs for George Miller, who's another amazing congressman and amazing leader. And he's such a kind and humble person. And I just learned so much about, really serving people from him. And then as it turned out, Bill Richardson ended up being the Secretary of Energy. So he brought a bunch of us to the Energy Department, and, true to what he wanted to do, true to his vision, he looked at the Energy Department and said, hey, there's really not a program and not like a leadership position to help Native Americans out. So he created one. And I was fortunate enough to be the first ever director of Native Affairs for the Energy Department. And then after that, I went back to the law firm, and that's where I met you. And I've been lucky enough to kind of stay with the battle, which is to fight for Native American rights. And
I've always thought there should be a movie of when in the Clinton White House, when all these young natives went to Washington D.C. I know Holly was there and you were there, and just all these natives that I knew, that I met in the very beginning when I first came on the scene. But I think that's the thing about you, is I don't think many people know what a long and varied and important career that you've had in tribal gay in Indian country. I think, as you mentioned, you were adopted. I think you talk about the generational trauma issue, and I think this is really important. How even though sometimes we're born, halfway between first and home, we can still make it to the bases. And I think, my son is adopted, and he's tribal also. So, I think you provide a very inspirational story. But we're not even close to anywhere near. You were in DC, and then when I met you in the early 2000s, you were working in tribal, working with techs, working with a lot of different people. Then again, when you came back on my screen again was when you were up in Washington. All of a sudden, what happened in Washington, and how did you get up to Washington State? Did your plane break down? Your car? What was it?
Many trips to Washington. I kind of thought that life would take me back to New Mexico, and apologize for the background noise, but I was sure of it, and then it didn't, and I ended up in Washington State. It's just such a gorgeous state, and lucky enough to have a family out here now, but I just think that this state has just given me such opportunity, and my law firm gave me great opportunity. It was the age of the internet, and you could kind of move around, and as we know from the pandemic, you really can be anywhere now.
Right.
But I was one of the first people to really test that theory.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up in the state, and then there's such a thriving Native American community here. I remember one of the first things I was really grateful to be able to do was to help with about 8 or 9 other Native Americans from tribes all around here start Native Vote Washington. And it was probably in 2006, 7, or 8 that we started it, and that was to get out the Native vote. The tribes, of course, had shown us that this is totally possible when they got rid of Slade Gorton, and helped get Senator Maria Cantwell elected. So, we've got 313,000 Native Americans living in our state. That is a lot of votes. So there is a strong Native vote power here, and that was something I'm really glad to get involved in. But after that, I was asked by some of the tribes and by the governor to join the state gambling commission, and so to become a state regulator. And that was such an incredible opportunity. So I loved it. I jumped right in.
Now you were really one of the first Native Americans in the commercial gaming realm in regulatory that I know of. Most of the tribes do come and stay within, but that was a big deal for you. How was that?
Well, it certainly was. It was different. You take an oath of office. We're also the State Gambling Commission in Washington is the second oldest in the country after Nevada. Limited law enforcement jurisdiction. It's all about keeping gaming safe and honest, and rooting out crime. They're very restrictive rules. So, as a regulator in Washington, there's a lot of say-so in how commercial card rooms are operated and how nonprofit gaming is operated. And on the other hand, the tribes are separate. And we, as a state commission, our interaction with the tribes is we would help co-regulate to the extent that the tribes negotiated that in compacts. And when I got to the commission, there were almost 100 card rooms in the state, commercial card rooms that we licensed. When I left the commission, there were under 50. And so you could kind of see just on the a timeline, a chart. I'm trying to get my hands in here.
I tell you, Chris has one arm.
Going down, and tribal revenue, tribal gaming was just really, really growing, and it's I think it's a testament to how well the tribes operate. I mean, it's really a testament. We were fortunate enough on our commission to interact with all the tribal gaming commissions, and just see really how incredible their programs are, and how they make sure that gaming is safe for their people and customers in their casinos. And so that was really something. Of course, negotiating compacts was a huge part of our job. And you can't not, as a state, go in with the mindset that, hey, we're going to set the rules and take it or leave it. That's not how it works. Unfortunately, our governor, Jay Inslee, really is a good partner with the tribes. And that's something that, I wanted to make sure that as a commissioner and then as a chairman, we lived that out as a value, that we are good partners with tribes, and that we're there to help them and not like run things. That's tribes run their own stuff. So, we'll take care of the commercial side. We'll take care of charitable gaming, raffles, all that stuff. And tribes will take care of the casinos, which really is like 80% of the gaming business in Washington. The casinos are just doing so well here, and they're providing so much to tribal membership and to cities like us. Like I'm a council member in the city of Auburn. We're right next to the Muckleshoot Reservation, but so many of our residents are employees of the Muckleshoot tribe. The tribe donates so much to our city. The tribe owns a racetrack. The only commercial racetrack in Washington State is in the city of Auburn where I live, and the tribe operates that.
So how long were you on the Washington State Gambling Commission?
I was there. Time is going by so quickly in the pandemic, but I'd say 6 years. I started in 2013 and I left in 2019.
Yeah, it was always nice to be able to invite you as a speaker, and you're like going, well, we'll see what the budget says and stuff like that. Now, after you finished that, instead of walking away into the sunset, you had a crazy idea to run for public office, didn't you? Locally, though, which is very commendable. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I go to tribal meetings, and I think one of the great things about me and my tribe is they know I won't run for office, so I get along with everybody really well.
Yeah. It was a crazy idea. I mean, I knew I had support, so that was important. And it was really important to, for me, and I think for a lot of people of color, to look at a city that we've really grown, in the last 25 years. We've grown from a city of about 15,000 to almost 85,000. And yet our city council was, almost all white and all people who mostly had retired. They came from other public service clubs like the Elks, Lions, or Eagles, which is great. I love that. But it really wasn't representational of the incredibly diverse community we have. And so I was, I just really thought it was important to, we're next to a reservation, one of the best, thriving reservations in the country. And there are a lot of tribal members. There should be Native American on the city council. And so, I was able to get a lot of support from really just everyone in the community. And I'm also just really proud that there were 3 of us who were elected for the first time. And there was the first Native American, the first African American, and the first Indian American. And we all got onto the council. And I'm just so proud of not just my colleagues, but of the voters who decided it was time for a change and, maybe modernize our council. And it's just been a wonderful experience. And, again, to be able to, be a better partner to the tribe that's next door, because to be honest, I don't think we were a very good partner to them, before. And certainly, before their gaming took off, we didn't really ask them or think about them too much. Now, yeah, they're always on our minds. They're like building a giant 18-story hotel. They run the racetrack. They're the second largest employer in South King County next to Boeing. So we have to be more humble, and we have to be honest about how, as a city, we've acted towards that tribe, and what can we do to make amends and to be better neighbors and to be better partners, because they're sovereign.
Well, you know what? I think it's very inspirational. It really starts from a place of putting natives in positions of power and having these voices and being able to share these stories with the community. And they already know them already. But, it's been pretty wild to watch over the last 30 years. The Indians used to be those guys over there on the reservation that nobody went to. And now it's just, like I say, when it's done right, you can't tell where the reservation ends and the community begins. And I see this again and again. I see this with my own tribe. But I think your inspiration for running for city council, I'm not sure it's something I would do, but I think it's important that the next generation sees that it can be done. The 20-year-olds and the young 30-year-olds and, the young people coming up right behind us, kicking us in the butt. Now, how long have you been on the city council?
Um, I've been on. I was elected in 2019, so started serving in
Pandemic. So
2000.
you're pandemic through
Yeah,
the fire of the pandemic, right?
we had like 3 meetings in person, and then boom, everything went to Zoom. But it also really, I think we were set back a little bit simply because we couldn't see the things we were trying to improve. I was lucky enough to get on this inter state intrastate board on salmon protection, and it's all the cities along one of the rivers that goes from Seattle through our city and out up into the Cascades, and it's, we're trying to protect the salmon. But if you're just seeing the river on a computer screen versus being out on a boat on there, it's totally different. And I'm lucky enough, I kind of get to live along the river, so I see it. But I know that, for many people on those Zoom meetings, we didn't get a tour of the projects on the river until about 6 months ago. And so, yeah, it was difficult, I think, to be someone who's trying to work on public policy and not actually see whether it's a river, whether it's a housing community, whether it's just the roads everywhere, school conditions. Yeah, you want to do those in person. So in a way, I kind of feel like, man, I just got elected last year. Now I'm starting.
Well, you know it, and it kind of leads me into the reason why you're here. I remember when John McCoy first ran for office, and during the early 2000s, that was a big deal. We still had Slade Gorton and his obstructionist policies, and the fact that tribal gaming was starting to get wheels or wings, I should say. And one of the big deals was a lot of tribes coming together outside of Washington State to not only oppose Slade Gorton his election, but to support John McCoy. And John ended up having a really nice, long, beautiful career. And why? What in the world convinced you to run for state representative now?
So I've learned to really listen to other people,
Yeah,
and
that's my
maybe not,
problem. That
think so much in my, plan and plot. I know
not
there's,
happening. Not
yeah,
happening with me, man. Go ahead.
so it's like man plans, God laughs kind of thing, So I can't really take credit for, the decision to run. I mean, I had to ask, my wife had to green light it, of course, and I wouldn't have done it unless, the person who's retiring had given me his blessing. That's Pat Sullivan. Pat's the House Majority Leader. But I asked him, and he said, yeah, that'd be a really good idea. Our local mayor did. My friends on the city council said it'd be a good idea, and the local district Democrats really wanted to get behind me. So that's why I ran. But I also ran because it's just insane. We 313,000 Native Americans in Washington, and there's only one Native representative in the entire legislature. Just by percentage alone, there should probably be 5 or 6.
At least an Echo Hawk. You know what I mean? At
Yeah,
least one
yeah,
Echo
yeah.
Hawk. Statistically speaking, there should be at least an Echo Hawk up there, right?
Well, we got to keep up the Tlingit and Navajo numbers, and Pawnees are, yeah, of course. Um, so, but yeah, to represent, to make sure that, if nothing else, we're all on, I'm on Salish land. But we got, just to remind people, yeah, you're on land that was doing great until recently. People have been here for 30,000 years, and everything was just really wonderful. So how can we honor and respect the first people who were here? How can we make sure that the people who took care of the land, the people whose resources enabled Seattle to grow, how can we take care of the people who made this all possible? So that is an important thing. And yeah, then there's stuff like I spent, countless times, testifying before the House Commerce and Gaming Committee. And you really want people who understand gaming to be there making decisions. And so that's something I hope to contribute. And just also as someone who's, fought for human and civil rights, that's also really important to have that voice in the legislature. But I think I'd say that, something you brought up earlier, we also really need young people to run for office. I mean, to see that this is something they can do. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be daunting if you want to jump in and run for, a U.S. senator or congressperson, but there are a ton of like real local possibilities, the school boards, the planning commissions, the city councils, where, the dollar thresholds are not daunting by any stretch. And you can knock on, a couple thousand doors and really, cover the bases that you need to get elected. Those things are possible. And it gives you the experience of working with other people and really sets you up to kind of move up. Those are fantastic opportunities for Native Americans. And I just really encourage young people to run for office. And you'll be surprised at how many people really, really want you there. Your friends, your family, but people you've never met before will say, man, I need you there.
Yeah, as I travel the country and as I have for over 20 years and meeting tribes, and I just think the next generation of young people is just phenomenal. It's going to take more than 30 years of gaming to repair the generational trauma, but I'm definitely inspired by the young people that I meet as I travel around the country. Now, Chris, what can we do to help you? And by the way, this is the first of many that we can do to raise your profile. Anything I can do to help, I told you I will, and this was the first. But how can we on this Facebook group help you? What can we do?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. Your support means everything, and the support of tribes in Indian country really means everything. The bottom line of campaigning in any race is that you need money to stay alive, and so fundraising is just a critical component. I would say to anyone who's watching and would be interested in supporting my campaign, our primary election, the last day is August 2nd. So that's 11 days away. We're in Washington, we're an all vote by mail state. So everyone in our state actually has the ballots right now. You can fill out your ballot and walk and drop it off today. So voting is already underway. But our campaign, we need more money to post digital ads and to do more mailers. Those are really the key things. So going to the website, www.chris4wa.com, CHRIS, 4 WA.
We have it scrolling on the bottom this whole
Oh,
time.
right. So there you go.
Yeah, I have a scroll for you. It's kind of, at least I could do it.
I probably should have been paying attention to that earlier. See what else you guys put on there.
Chris is awesome.
So yeah, that donating there would really, really help us, meet our goals. It's an open seat. The person who has it now is retiring, so there is a crowded field, and there's what you would expect in 2022. There's some moderates, and then there's some real extremists, and we are fighting to keep the seat in Democratic hands. It's a heavily targeted district, both at my level, at the district Senate level, at the congressional level. It's a national target for both parties to pick up. And so, all the help we can get really will get us through the primary and into the general. And so that's the number one thing, would be to donate at the website you see. And then secondly, I can just use your prayers. It really having a good spirit and being, understanding that, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it to help other people. I mean, we're in this business because we can make a difference in other people's lives. People who, in my career, I learned how to speak for people who didn't have a voice. For those kids who had to walk 15 miles to get to Pinon Community School in the Navajo Reservation because there weren't buses. or they had to spend the week sleeping at that school because it was just too much to walk. So learning to speak for people who can't speak for themselves, and just being able to get up and dust yourself off after a battle. That's what we're trying to do is to fight for people. So it's about being helpful, helping our friends, our neighbors, our family, our tribes.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you very much. I appreciate you adjusting to my 1 hour delay. But more importantly, I want to continue this conversation here in other formats, and let's do some more to raise your profile. I think it's very important. You are an inspiration, I think, to a lot, and people like me. I've just admire all the moves that you're making in life. Your sobriety, your intellect, your friendship. There's a lot there, my friend. So I appreciate for you coming here and introducing you to our Facebook friends. This video will be posted online. It'll be on YouTube where people can watch it. But we will continue this conversation. We have 11 days left, so let's keep going. And I really appreciate you coming here, my friend. Thank you very much. And to the people who see us now and later, the number is right below me. Don't forget to donate. I've donated, and I'll donate some more, Chris, because I think this is important. I think you're important. So,
thank you. You're so gracious, and I couldn't do it without you, Victor. Thank you so much.
Hey, you know what? I just noticed we have a couple comments. Hey, outstanding. So familiar. Correlations. Love you, Chris. Wow, I didn't see you typing any of these, Chris, while we were commenting. You're good.
They're not Russian bots.
Yeah, he's typing with his toes. I think that's what he does. Again, Chris, thank you very much. Let's have you again next week. Let's have another conversation. I'm going to start doing a weekly webcast every Friday, talking about the news, doing more stuff like that because I'm not busy at all. But again, thank you, Chris, and thank you, viewers. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, Chris.
Right. Thank you. Bye.